it's pretty traumatizing to have, for some, it's pretty traumatizing to have the title felon. Like, it mentally messes with you. Nobody wants to be an outcast. Nobody wants to have a scarlet letter, right? Nobody wants to be different in the sense of like bad different. Everybody wants to be a part of a community. And I think that this is like, the commandments, right? Love your neighbor as yourself. So sometimes when I read some of that stuff or whatever, it's almost like constitutional type stuff for me when I read that. How mind-blowing it is if we truly understood the concept of loving our neighbor as ourselves. Well, what does that mean? What does that mean, love myself, right? Because you'll even hear people say, I gotta love myself before I love others. I don't think that we necessarily have that. I think we can be harmful to ourselves, but I don't think it's that we necessarily don't love ourselves because we're surviving, right? A survival mechanism is the same thing as loving yourself. For instance, I drank because I hated my life. You know what I mean? I hated it. I hated mentally dealing with the things that I was dealing with. And I love myself so much that I'm willing to make like this supreme sacrifice to stay drunk all the time so that I don't have to deal with that stuff. It doesn't look like love. And it's probably even, someone could make an argument that it's like a false love, but it's a form of survival so that I don't have to deal with something because I love myself. You know what I mean? And it becomes a disease and you become addicted to it. And like, that's really at its core is like you're surviving. You could say the same thing with, I make sure that I breathe. I make sure that I'm clothed when I go out into the public. I make sure that I eat before I leave. I make sure I go to the bathroom in an appropriate place because I don't want to go to jail, because I want to have freedom for myself. You know what I mean? Now, go back up. Love your neighbor as yourself. What am I doing for my neighbor? I mean, if you would have asked me 5 years ago, nothing. I was literally doing nothing for anybody. I was serving myself by making sure that I had a fat bank account. I was taking care of my kids, that I had a house, was full, that my clothing was better than just okay. You know what I mean? Does that make me a shitty person? No, it doesn't at all. It just means that I'm not following to the T what I believe God asked me to do. And I think there's ways you can do it that's convenient, and then I think there's ways you can do it that looks like ugly grace. I get a lot of questions about ugly grace. Like, what does that mean? Grace isn't ugly, it's beautiful. Jesus died on the cross, and I'm like, yeah. And I bet you if you were there watching that happen, it would have been an ugly sight. We need people who understand the concept of like ugly grace to the point like they're willing to put in the effort and the work to ensure that the people around us are getting grace. Answering the phone at 2 o'clock in the morning, not convenient. Giving someone a ride when I'm on my way to work, not convenient. Going to court with someone, not convenient, unless it's my kid. You know what I mean? Back in the day when we were just villages, like it took a village to raise a kid, right? Well, now we're like a corporate village. You know what I mean? Everyone's just kind of sticking to their own, and we lost this mentality that we're raising up people, and it takes a city to do it. And what I mean by that is like this guy's going to this employer looking for a job. It'd be nice if that person was really graceful and gave him a chance, and then when that person leaves and they go to this landlord, providing services to him, and if they see something that like looks a little off, they're calling the mental health advocate to come in. You know what I mean? Like it takes a whole city to raise up a person that's struggling. And some people are good at this game and they can become really successful, and some people suck at this game. But if we have the city, the heart of the city, working together to like raise people up and not look at, ask them what their political beliefs are before they help them, or ask them if they believe in Jesus before they help them, or tell them that they're willing to help them as long as they read the Bible. You know what I mean? Like, we need to drop the expectations and just have an ugly form of grace that doesn't feel good. Ugly grace was never about the person receiving it. It's about the person giving it, because it feels ugly. I hate it. It's not convenient. I want it to be like a software and automated. I want to be able to just type into my computer grace and people will get it. I want to send a text message saying, hey, have a good day, instead of calling. And so it's inconvenient and it's ugly. but it's literally the most beautiful thing that could ever happen for someone else. And it does something internally to you that makes you want to love your neighbor. That's the epitome of ugly race. And I think our politicians need to understand that better. People in the system, all the ones who are trying to automate services and automate, grace and automate all this stuff. Like, it takes putting the human back in the game.